The Rantanen deal is done. Pierre LeBrun.
Yeah, so Logan Stankoven and 2 first-round picks going to Carolina. There's also some smaller pieces involved in this overall trade, but Rantanen to Dallas. Again, Logan Stankoven and 2 first-round picks, part of what's going back to Carolina, and a few other parts in there that we'll get to, but that's the gist of it.
Do we know the contract situation with Rantanen with Dallas? We have the numbers, right?
Well, $12 million, but whether it's a firm 12, like on the button 12, but again, as we reported earlier in the day, the ask initially in the extension was around $13 million. That's initially what Rantanen wanted. So for this deal to get done, the player essentially had to come back to $12 million.
Well, and as we're sort of doing the housekeeping on the Scott Laughton deal, one little note here is that it's the 2027 first-round pick the Leafs are sending Philadelphia's way. Maybe a little wiggle room on what exactly the protection is on that pick. But it's just notable because Toronto still retains its 2026 pick as it's still got some time here to make some deals.
Dallas has had 5 Finns playing for them this year so far. They have more coming up the pipeline, but Rantanen is the big addition. And that is a monster deadline deal. It's hard to remember a player in his prime this accomplished being dealt at the deadline.
So I have no hard information, so I'm going to take the role of James Duthie here and pose the question to the panel over there. James is not paying attention. But I'm going to pose the panel question, and that is, knowing it's Logan Stankoven and 2 first-round picks, and they gave up Marty Necas to get Rantanen, good or bad deal?
For Carolina, yeah.
He's taking my job. Doesn't want to be an insider anymore. He wants to be a host. But it is the valid question, as Bob usually does. And first of all, just again, as Gord was mentioning, let's just take one step back here before we react to the deal about how unprecedented this is. Not just for a player of this level to be traded on deadline day, but for a player of this level to be traded twice in the deadline period. It may have happened before. It hasn't happened in my time doing this. I can't recall a big-name player being dealt twice at the deadline. It's nuts.
It's been the story of the NHL the last month. The fact that it might happen, the fact that Carolina didn't have a contract worked out, that they seemingly made the first trade on the hopes that he would want to go there. So it's been incredibly unusual for a player of this caliber to do that. And you think about the $12 million figure. I wasn't in the negotiation with Colorado, but I have to assume that he probably could have got the same contract or something really close to it, maybe even more than this, in Colorado. So I wonder, was it a city-specific, not about the team so much, but I want to be somewhere specific, I want to be in whatever city, or did he just recalibrate his financial demands as he got close to the deadline? Because it feels like if he wanted to stay in Colorado, he probably could have done for this exact number.
To answer the question that was posed to us, this is a bad deal for the Carolina Hurricanes. Like, are you any closer to winning a Stanley Cup now than you were last year? No, you get to the same point in the playoffs, and you can't score. And last year you lost Jake Gensel. And guess what? He walked. You were still in good shape. You went after the big UFA fish that no one even knew was on the board. And if he walked again, you would have had a chance to win. And if you got nothing for him, you still probably would have been in good shape, regardless of whether you were able to sign him or not. It's great. You bring in Logan Stankoven. But in the here and now, like in this window, are you any closer to a Stanley Cup?
It's not done yet, though. We'll wait till 3 o'clock. They have 2 first-rounders that they can do something else with.
That for sure. That's very valid. But like for Dallas, you've loaded up in a big way, and you're going to get Tyler Seguin back, and you're going to get Heiskanen back. Like, my goodness, this is a deep team.
Logan Stankoven's going to be a really good player in the National Hockey League.
But
you're right. In the here and now.
But you look at that in the top line. You've got Robertson, Hintz now, and Rantanen. I mean, that is unbelievable. And then the playoff performances of someone like Rantanen, his size. He's got over 100 points in 81 games. He's big. He gets to the middle of the ice. This is a perfect complement. I mean, it would be a perfect complement to almost any team. When you go back to Carolina, I had this thought process. I was thinking to myself, keep him. Keep him. You are in your window right now. Hold him. Even if you can't extend him in free agency, now you're giving up. Now you've got all this cap room. You've got all this space ready. So for me, I'm really surprised that he didn't remain in Carolina, given that the window they're in right now and they're as a contender.
If I'm a player in Carolina's room right now, I'm saying, we better be getting somebody come in here before 3 p.m. I mean, you lost Necas, you lost Rantanen, 2 guys who would definitely help you score goals in playoffs. But Rantanen, to me, I'm the same way. 100 points in playoffs, like that's been the sticking point for the last few years. You're not getting over the hump because you can't score goals, and you got a proven goal scorer. Sometimes you got to live with guys walking away and trying to figure it out in the summer.
You wonder if the fact that Rantanen hadn't played up to his standard there showed them maybe whether it's because he wasn't comfortable, or maybe it wasn't the best fit on the ice.
6 weeks?
But I'm saying, like, maybe they have to make a call. Today's the day they have to make it, right? So maybe I have to think, if he had 17 points in 11 games and 9 goals, they probably would have kept him.
Right.
Right? Even at the risk that he may have left. But the fact that he doesn't have that kind of production. He's like a half a point a game guy, and you have, the bird in the hand. They know they can get these assets back and then do whatever they want with them. It's a tough decision to make. They didn't have all the information probably that they wanted to make it by today, but
his return to Carolina when Dallas eventually plays, there's going to be some. I don't think there will be
no
tribute video.
Okay, think about what's walked out the door in Carolina over the last year. The 2 defensemen, it was Shea and Pesce. Now you made replacements, that's fine, but they're good players.
Do you want Brady Shea back right now?
No, but I'm saying how different it looks. How different it looks there. No Teravainen, no Necas, no Rantanen, no Gensel. Did I say Nason? Like there's a lot. It's very different. And I can't honestly say that Carolina is any closer to winning a Stanley Cup than they have been in the past.
In a market, like we hear a lot of times, like, well, you can't keep going back to the same thing. They're doing something different.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what you
something to be said.
If they bring everyone back, you're like, well, hang on, why are they bringing everyone back? They never win anyways. You got to, Rantanen situation aside, like looking at different things, they probably made the right choice in letting Shea walk and letting Pesce walk. Gensel, they wanted to resign. He chose to leave himself. So some of it's not the club's making. They can want to do things. If players don't want to play ball, like Rantanen did not, he turned down more money.
It's a bad look, though. The whole situation's a bad look.
Well, you're admitting you made a mistake.
Yeah.
But you just offered him more money than Dallas signed him for.
Yeah.
So your mistake was maybe not knowing he would sign.
That's the mistake.
But your mistake is not you didn't sign, that you didn't offer the money. You offered him more, right?
Yeah. And part of the mistake, too, is, you make this move with Rantanen. It's not on his radar at all. Like, when guys get traded, if you're a UFA, you kind of have an idea. You're playing on a poor team. Like, I can see there's a trade coming. Like,
guys of that stature, particularly, usually pick their destination.
Maybe guys ask for a trade. It's on their radar. Like, this guy had to show up, start playing for Carolina. Like, this was nowhere near his radar. So he gets a 6-week audition, starts finally taking some baby steps in the right direction. Now he's got to go somewhere else. At least this time, he was able to wrap his head around it.
It's also a little bit different, too. You're playing alongside a great player, Aho, and not McKinnon. So you're working your way into it. But he's been a consistent performer over the course of his career. So for me, that alongside his playoff performances, sometimes I think, when you're a part of a team, you went out and specifically got him because you want to be a playoff contender. In the playoffs.
Oh, Stanley
for
Cup
what he does.
contender.
Yes, Stanley Cup contenders. So you went out and did that.
In the worst division in hockey.
And not to hold on to that and give it that time, to me, is a mistake.
He was shook by that trade, right?
Clearly.
Give the guy some time to get his feet
They don't have any more time. They only have 2 more hours then to make a call, right?
I mean, you can't blame Rantanen unless you're Carolina. And he has the power to do all of this.
Colorado was a rush-based offense, especially with Nathan McKinnon. He was awesome at trailing on the rush. Cycle-based offense in Carolina, even though he's a big guy, maybe not so good at chasing pucks down.
Where's he going now?
Dallas.
Pretty good rush
hints, rush-based offense.
Play.
Go get him. I'll come late and shoot it in the open.
Let's get more on this from Jennifer Hedger and Craig Button.
Thank you. Yes, Rantanen, the 10th overall pick by the Colorado Avalanche in 2015. He's had 5 30-goal seasons, Craig, and now he's a member of the Dallas Stars, who are looking real stacked right about now. What's your take on the acquisition?
Okay, spoiler alert. Okay, we have the GM of the Day award. Jim Nill, we'll just put his name on it right now. Jim Nill gets the award. It's over. And the Dallas Stars are my
What if somebody gets Sidney Crosby?
And the Dallas, I have the right to change my mind, right? Okay. And the Dallas Stars are my Cup favorite. Okay, so
now they've all of a sudden become your Cup favorite?
Absolutely, they have. I mean, Rantanen's a difference maker. That's a good team. Jason Robertson has found his game. He struggled early in the year. He has found his game. You got a big-time player in Rantanen. Haskins coming back. You got Ottinger. That team is loaded. They're good. Jim Nill said, I'm giving my team every chance to win. I think they're the best in the West now.
Okay, so what about Carolina now? They're kind of left holding the bag. You see that Necas is out, and they're going to get Logan Stankoven, 2 first-round picks. Maybe one of those first-round picks gets turned into something else later on today, but what's your take on where Carolina's sitting right now?
So to answer Bob's question and to jump off what the panel just said, it's a good trade for the Carolina Hurricanes if your plan is 4 or 5 years from now. Simple as that. And to me, they made a U-turn on where they wanted to go. When they traded for Rantanen, you can't have a guarantee that you know what he's going to sign there. So you go and
you think you'd have an inkling, right?
You would think, but they did. But part of the problem is that they wanted to be secretive. And when you're secretive, sometimes you don't get the opportunity to get the feel and get that inkling. And now, to me, Rantanen was the guy, the bigger player, come in, add offense, try to go deeper in the playoffs, to Mike's point, do something different. Well, they're doing something different right now. It feels like they're going in a different direction. And we always have to wait to see what else they could do with those first-round draft picks. But this is a step back at this point in time for the Carolina Hurricanes with an idea how bold they were.
You take a look at the Avs now, who have Brock Nelson, Dallas, Mikko Rantanen, Edmonton Oilers. We haven't seen anything from them yet. How much pressure is on them right now?
Well, the Edmonton Oilers, I think there's massive pressure on them. And there's also pressure on the Winnipeg Jets because Mike talked about finishing first in that division. The Dallas Stars are right on the Winnipeg Jets' heels.
Those sneaky Stars. James, back to you.
Craig just mentioned it. I mean, right now, Dallas is 6 behind Winnipeg, game in hand. Highest scoring team in the league since January is Dallas. And they just added Rantanen. And they're getting their best defense is not playing right now. They are so good. And to think that one of Winnipeg, Dallas, and likely Colorado, if they pass Minnesota, which I think they will, someone's going home in the first round.
It's crazy.
Those are 3 of the top 7 Cup favorites. And so we talk about the Atlantic, the Leafs, and the Florida teams, how important first is. Same with the Central, because if Winnipeg doesn't win the Central, I don't know if they get there.
Let's get more from a couple of stars of a television/radio program called Overdrive, Brian Hayes and Jeff O'Neill. Oh, the handshake before the interview.
Great to see you. How about this guy doing stand-ups now? Imagine we asked him to stand up 2 years ago. What his reaction would have been. I need you out here in track pants and boots to talk about this deal. It would have been incredible. You know who you look like? Rod Brindamore. Rod Brindamore, and you were famously roommates with him back in the day.
Yeah.
What do you think is going through his head right now down in Carolina?
Well, Hazy, you know how competitive Rod Brindamore was as a player, and just watch a Carolina Hurricanes game and look at him behind the bench yelling and screaming. Just imagine a conversation with him and the general manager. If the GM said, I'm going to turn Nate Chess, I'm going to move it around at the end of the day, things are going to change a little bit, but coming back, we're going to have Stankoven and 2 first-round picks. What do you think his reaction
They're worse.
would be?
Yeah,
Exactly.
they're absolutely worse.
He's trying to be in the now and in the moment and try to win a Stanley Cup. And he would say back to the GM, how does that make me win right now? I think this is amateur hour general manager play. And I just don't know how you make that transaction for Rantanen with not having the understanding that he's going to re-sign there. I just don't get it.
Seems...
And I know they wanted to do it in secrecy, whatever they did,
Yeah.
but not knowing that he was going to re-sign, that is crazy stuff to me. And then you're ending up flipping him for this. And I like Stankoven. He's a good young player. He's got energy. I watched him at the World Juniors. Good energy guy. He's got some
But he's
skill.
not Rantanen, and he's still young.
And he's not Natchez either.
Right, exactly. Well, and Craig just anointed Jim Nill the GM of the day because Jim Nill said, I'm not doing what Tulsky did. I'm making sure that I can sign this guy.
Jim Nill wasn't picking him up if he could not sign him.
Exactly. Like that became abundantly clear. They're not going to make that move unless you're willing to sign him. And Carolina, I look back on it now and wonder, did they get duped by Colorado? Because Colorado might have said, well, we don't want to ruffle feathers. We don't want to let Rantanen know we're doing this.
Well, that's the curious thing
and
about
they
the
made
number.
The deal.
The curious thing about the number is, don't you think that Colorado would have been willing to go to $12 million?
Absolutely.
So what was different about the $12 million that comes out of Colorado and Texas? Obviously, the taxes could be an implication there.
Or Rantanen now knows what his true worth is. And I think that's going to be interesting. Again, we talk about Mitch Marner a lot on our show in Toronto. Rantanen, maybe he thought he could get more in Colorado or deserve more, and they said, okay, we'll ship you out. Maybe he thought, okay, I should get more in Carolina. Eventually, yes, state tax and all that, he settled on $12 million per year.
At the end of the day, there's a secondary tier of star players where we've seen Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl say, I'm the next guy up, so my value is going to go up and I'm going to set the number. Maybe there's a secondary tier that's not going to do that.
Well, and that's reasonable for a winger, right? Rantanen's a great player. Yeah. Marner's a great player. Centers, Matthews, McDavid, number 1 defensemen like Makar and Quinn Hughes, they should be paid more than star wingers. Great seeing you, man.
Pleasure doing
Great seeing you. JD?